Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 Microsoft MVP. And on this 200th episode of Partner Talks, I have a very special guest, Heather Cook from Microsoft. Heather, introduce yourself. Tell us all about your journey with Microsoft.
Oh my gosh, Rick, first of all, congratulations. This is amazing. I am so
Thank
honored
you.
that number 200. So, what a milestone. So, that's fantastic. So, hello, viewers and listeners and everything. So, it's great that you're here for this 200th as well. Goodness. So, yeah, let's see. I started out my Microsoft journey back in, let's see, 2001. When SharePoint was very fresh and new, and it had a code name, Tahoe. I started working as a vendor actually to Microsoft, writing case studies. I was producing a bunch of case studies for the SharePoint team, for Jeff Teeper and a wonderful woman named Nancy McSherry Jensen, who I say it's all her fault because she brought me onto the team. And so, yeah, so I was doing that. And then I kept saying yes to all of these different projects. Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do this? Some of it I did, some of it I didn't, but I learned on the job. And that led to me starting to do event production as well, because I was a theater major at the University of Washington in Seattle, and I had a lot of production experience. And so they were like, "Have you ever done an event?" And I was like, "Yeah, lots. I've produced a lot of plays." So we produced the first SharePoint conference, and that was really fun to do that. And so there was a lot of fun firsts because SharePoint was such a new, burgeoning, wonderful product. And every kind of, theatrical, fun idea that I had, Jeff Teeper said yes, which was really cool. Let's put on kilts and run around this stage and act like, warriors. Okay, that sounds good. Let's put boats, outside Building 33, these hydroplanes, and let's have people take pictures of them and brand them. And okay, so that just led to just lots of wonderful projects, and then expanding my career doing more and more for different teams. I worked a ton with the SQL Server team, with Pass, the Windows Embedded team. I used to run things for Convergence, did a big dynamic show. So just over time, a lot of wonderful things came my way, and I said yes, to a lot of them, and had beautiful people letting me have these great experiences and learning along the way. I've always had a head for marketing. And so marketing was something that I really loved: product marketing, product launches, all of that. I started my own business in that area as well, Creative Maven. So I've had that for years, and that's ebbs and flows and changes kind of as I need it. For a while, it was production company. Sometimes it was, just a place for me to publish stuff. So I've done that. And then I have podcast, Mavens Do It Better, which I had for about almost 3 years. And I think we're going to come back this summer, start doing it again, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, and then I had a software company for a little while that was kind of an in-product help, a little. It's funny. It's a little bit like Copilot, which that was really great learning of being a startup. And then during, just before the pandemic, I got asked to come back to Microsoft as a vendor again, to help with basically bringing all of these physical events to digital. Because at that time, right, Microsoft Teams really wasn't quite that yet. It was a collaboration hub, but then it became this huge platform for so many, virtual events and, people just getting together. So I did that for a moment. And then Donna Sakar, who, many know, who's, been on many teams at Windows Insiders and our accessibility team. And now she's doing a bunch of running around the world talking about AI. She literally DM'd me on Twitter and said, "Hey, you need to come, help run and build the community for Power Platform." And that was 3.5 years ago. So I got that job. So working for Charles Lamanna, and it was amazing. We built the Power Platform conference and the user group, platforms, and just all kinds of things that were new. Because in 2019, the words power and platform, they weren't together yet. They really came together at the end of that year. And then we entered this crazy pandemic, So building community from a screen and afar and not with people was a big learning experience for sure. And I've loved it, and it was so much fun. And then I just took a new job that we were talking about
But
earlier.
before you go
Yeah,
there, I want
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
talk to you about community
yeah.
because that's where we met about 3 years ago. I was on an MVP committee that we had going here talking about what the community needed, mostly from the business application side, where I came from, and that's where we kind of met. And I kind of knew at that point that you were passionate about community, which I think really leads into your new position at Microsoft. Tell us what you're doing now.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think, for me with the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 community, just watching and being a part of that growth over the last 3 years, and it really just exploding has been so cool. And it's been fun to dream up, campaigns and projects and different things and listening. To me, the biggest thing about a community is you have to listen to them and not only listen to them, but also implement the things they say, right? I mean, feedback is just dead on the vine if it doesn't go anywhere, right? So that's been really fun of that listening loop with our community. And then, like I said, starting off in the SharePoint world, I back in, over the holidays, there was a conversation that happened, and there was some programs that we started about a year ago. One is called the Microsoft Global Community Initiative, and that's between Modern Work, M365, and the Power Platform Business Application. So Jeff Teeper, our president of CAP, and Charles Lamana, president of BAP, said, yes, we would love to do that Better Together story of building a global initiative for our community all up. And so that was something that Caruana Gatimu, who's actually my new manager, and I dreamed up and got approved and put out into the world. And so that's really about how we can support and listen to community from Microsoft in the entire ecosystem. And so that's one of the places where I'm going to put more time in my new role. So I had been doing global community evangelism and events for Power Platform and Dynamics 365, and now I've moved into the modern workspace, and I'm going to be doing that for Microsoft 365 all up. So all of the different products in that division. So yeah, moving over
And I
there.
think this is timely because, I'm seeing from, both the user group community and the projects I'm still involved with as an
Yeah.
MVP, the client doesn't see there's a difference between modern workplace and Dynamics business applications because we have them in this cloud where they're just going back and forth, right? They're working from app to app, and the integration is getting so good that they don't even know they're working from app to app. So to them, it's just I'm working in the Microsoft cloud.
Yeah. They say, it's like with any business, like don't ship your org chart, right? And so, yeah, when you're working in community or even events, user groups, it doesn't matter as much to people. They want to get together, they want to be together, they want to talk about technology. You can't like be like, well, this, no, don't wait a minute. You're not allowed to ask that question because that's about this, right? It's like you have to be able to talk about all the things, right? And they are so better together. You have apps from the business application side inside of Teams working that way. You have, so there's so much crossover. These programs that really open up and are inclusive to everything are really exciting to me, for sure.
So Heather, what are you going to be doing in your new role?
Well, let's see. We have a couple of things. So I have, strategy around how we, as a team, as Microsoft, as a product team, show up at our third party events where we go. So we all go to a lot of events. There's things like Microsoft Ignite, the Microsoft Build that are first party or flagship. And so we bring community efforts and community, fun stuff and activations in all of those, working with our larger event team. And then for the third party events that we sponsor or are a big part of with speakers and all of that, I'm working on our strategy on how we show up and how we work with those folks. And then the other thing is that global community initiative that I was talking about, that's open for anyone. You can come in and we have a meeting once a month. There are board members that are community members and regional leaders. And then I also host once a month an under NDA event producers meeting as well. And that's also open to anybody who's running a global boot camp or hackathon or trying to figure out how to start a user group or any of those things. Sometimes we share embargoed information like dates that are coming up, although all the dates for all the Microsoft shows are out this year, which is so exciting so people can plan their lives. But it's a safe space where we can talk to each other about, how do you do this? Like, how do I do sponsorship or what's a budget look like? And and all of that. So it's all about helping people get the skills that they need because people are so passionate and they are in their local communities and they want to do something or they're already getting together with people and they're like, well, maybe we should grow this and invite some more people and do that. So it's all about, giving people tools and templates and learnings and the ability to ask questions. And most people, people don't ask questions because they don't want to feel stupid, right? And so it's like it's a place where like all questions are on the table. Let's figure this out. Let's pull some pigtails and let's figure out how to build our communities even stronger with more people and invite everybody to the table.
And
So
I look at some of the other MVPs that have created some of these great communities, like
yeah,
who knew 1,000 people were going to show up in Scotland for a Power Platform
right. I
event,
mean, yes.
right? Like it just happened, right?
Yeah,
And so, who do you ask, right? You don't know who to ask. You're kind of looking at your friends and family and other MVPs, but nobody's operated at this level before. So it's great that there's going to be sort of this ecosystem built around these communities.
yeah, it's really exciting. And, everybody's so helpful. That's the other thing too. And this, from being an MVP and everything is that people are so willing to help and give each other time and space to learn stuff. So I love that about this too, because it's really, there was the SharePoint Saturdays were really strong. And that wonderful organization decided to close its doors about a year and a half ago. And so the community was like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? We love those. And so Tom Daly, who is an MVP out of New York, New Jersey, decided, he's like, I'm going to rebuild that website so that there is a site for us to use and for the community to use. And we got to talking and I was like, that's awesome. And so we said, you know what? Why don't you put that site on Microsoft infrastructure? So you have all the support, security, trust, all that jazz. But the community, the global community initiative drives it. So it's, Microsoft infrastructure, but run and driven by the community and members of it who are working on it and all of that. And that's communitydays.org. And so we've been using that as the one-stop shop place for all community events across the entire Microsoft ecosystem. So anybody who's like, what's going on with all of these events and where can I do a call for, look for calls for content and how do I get involved? That is the place. And that was a really cool thing that happened just out of necessity of this really great thing that people loved that they were like, well, wait a minute, we shouldn't let this die. We should maybe get it back going. And so there's been like 150 events that have run through that site, right? And so people can put the information about their sites up there. You can have your own web page for it. That to me is super exciting. And we're building more and more on that. We're about to launch a community calls page up there as well. So the calls that Microsoft produces for the community, that's our little one that's going to start. And then anybody who's running a community call, not a user group, that's different, but like a community call, we're going to have the ability for people to put their calls up there so others can find them. So this is going to continue to be that one-stop shop that, the community also asked for that too. They're like, okay, there are so many calls. We cannot keep this straight. Can we have one place? We're like, this is a great idea. Yes, let's put those on that site. So that's been really fun too. And part
I'm
of
going
my,
to make sure I put those links in the post
yeah,
for this partner talks. Where would you like to see community go? What's your kind of vision for it?
goodness. I think to me right now, I feel like I'm going to say we're back to basics in a way. I think that we all went through this really wild time and we're still figuring things out from it. I think that there was a big spotlight shown on the platforms, like, because that's how we could, get together, right? And so I feel like that's still the case. To me, I have always had, and we'll do that until we get it, is I believe in one Microsoft community. I would really like to see, and we're doing a lot of this work behind the scenes actually about where's that one place that you could go to for community for Microsoft that is maybe that front door place. And then you can get to all the other places because we love our cars, right? You may take, public transportation, but we love our cars and our individuality, right? So you're always going to have and want a power platform space or a dynamic space or, even Excel or, all of that. But really being able to have a single sign-on, what? A place where all of your badges are and all of those things that you can get in so that you can learn, you can get technical skilling, you can figure out, the technical forums, all of that stuff. So my ultimate sort of Queen's Gambit dream up in, in the sky is that we get that sometime in the next, I don't know, 5 years. So,
And that's fantastic because, I've been involved with these user group communities for some time, and I watch how companies evolve, right? First, a technical person shows up, then a business person shows up, then management shows up, because the projects are getting bigger, but they start to shift, right? Because all of a sudden we were doing this project, but now we're doing this project. Now we're in the cloud and we want to do this project. So I think the needs of the community changes, and some people will stay in their Power Platform, CRM, or whatever role they have. But in the organization, as community expands, we're going to need people to go into many communities to interact.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's part of it. It's like you having different logons and different places. Well, should I put this question here, or am I looking for that there? It's a big company with a lot of products and all of that for sure. So that it's like, okay, but I do think that, there can be that utopian one place that at least that we all get into, to start. And then what is that? Choose your own adventure, and then you can, flip to the whale or whatever, you're doing there and get to where you need to go. But yeah, that's definitely a vision. I also think that, like user groups to me, some have gotten so much stronger during this time and others have just gone away. And I think, there's also like a time and place for, like you run something for 10 years or 5 years, it's like, who's the next set of folks who are going to come in and do these things, right? And are we doing succession plans? Like I talk about that a lot, about who's going to take my place when I decide to go, retire at some point, like in 25 years. But anyway, you know what I mean? But how are we growing that next generation of people who are, wanting to do these things and are passionate? Are we giving them the tools? Are we leaving, a good legacy behind, kind of thing? So that's important to me too. And I think about that a lot. So,
And you just hit on something that's really important too. Communities give a place for that newbie
yeah.
to come in to learn
Yep.
and to grow their careers. I wouldn't be an MVP today if it wasn't for communities, because that's where I got in and said, wow, look at this. I can actually go do a session. I can meet these other MVPs. I can learn. And eventually you start to move your way sort of up the ladder.
Absolutely. I mean, same for me. I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, I got my first job because of my theater community. I'd always worked in engineering kind of companies, and always loved computers and all of that. But it was because of my theatrical community. I sent out an email after getting laid off from a job in the early 2000s. And, my friend was like, hey, you're doing arts marketing and you're a great writer and all of that. My wife's working at Microsoft on this thing called SharePoint. So to me, yeah, community is so important, and local community too. Like you've done such a beautiful job, with your region and your local communities, and it's a testament to who you are, and also, the people around you, that is continued, right? Because so many things start and then they, and you're like, oh man, that was so cool. And then it just, so, I think to me, user groups are really the backbone or the foundation for all of this, because that's where it's like people getting together to break bread. Very simple. Like, let's get together and chit chat. And it doesn't have to be a giant extravaganza to start. I love an extravaganza, don't get me wrong. But, but that in itself is just people getting together, talking about stuff, relating, sharing stories and that kind of thing. And, hopefully then, being able to lean into infrastructure, whether it's, the Dynamics user group, who's fantastic, or, you use the Microsoft stuff, or, there's lots of choices out there for that sort of thing. But I feel like, that to me is sort of the heart and the core of so many things that do eventually lead up to like either these big conferences or these giant communities with millions of users and all that sort of thing. So,
So
yeah.
Heather, we've got a couple events coming up. We've got
Yeah.
Dynamics Con Live and we've got Dynamics Minds, which I'm involved with both of these. But from a community perspective, these started out as small 300-400 person events, and now today they're going to be hopefully well over 1,000 people are going to attend these. And I know you've been a big help in the past, navigating these events to navigate their way through the murky waters and to where they're breaking through now. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you for your help on those, but also any
Sure.
comments about events like Dynamics Minds and Dynamics Con Live?
They're just great. I mean, thank you for saying that. And it is I would say it's a passion of mine, having been an event producer for so long. I love producers. I love people who dedicate their life around creating experiences for other people, because I feel like that's kind of who I am as a person as well. And so I have a great affinity towards towards folks who do that. Yeah, I think, with Molly, for over at Doug, and Dynamics Con Live, and John and Jacob, like they're just fantastic people, first of all, and they care so much about the community. And what they do very much, I think, is a labor of love. And they've, and they've been very, I would say, intentional about how they've created this, that show. And I think Mira and the team for Dynamic Minds in Slovenia, same thing, very intentional about how they've put together the shows, about what they want them to be, how personal they are, and that it's truly about the community and making sure that, that's first, in both sets of these shows. And then they both also have their kind of fun, individual, pieces, that make them so cool. And the Dynamics Con Live, they've got their whole, like, the superheroes and all that great fun that looks like Roy Lichtenstein, art, and like all of that, like really fun kind of, you could be whatever you want to be. Like, they should have a theme song, like, or whatever. And then with Dynamic Minds, similarly, with the wizards and the witches and all of that, and taking a more sort of mystical look at things, and really pushing that forward. I think, it's great, right? It's like who loves a theme party? I do, right? Like we all do,
Absolutely.
right? We
Yes.
all, sure, like, what, Hawaiian is it, this and that. So, like, really, being intentional with having great content, of course, right? You have to have excellent content. So that's part of the bar. But then it's all those, like, little cool fun things that people bring to it that you go, you know what? I have to, one, I'm going to go because I've heard how cool it was. And then I'm going back because I had such a great experience there. I felt good. It made me happy. It made me smile. It connected me to people. And so I feel like those two shows in particular, and they do that. They get the base. They check the boxes on the stuff that really needs to be there and be well done. Like good food, and it has to be comfortable, and the content has to be good, and it's got to be easy to, like, register, and all of those good things. But then it's that like, it's turning the knob up and, like, all right, how are we gonna make this just that special something? And they really both they do that in it beautifully. So it's very
And I
cool.
think they've done a great job with their volunteers.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They really do a lot for their volunteers for the conference and at the conference. So the volunteers get excited. And both those shows, the volunteers are very excited that this is happening in a few weeks. So
Yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing. It's like, you treat your speakers well, you treat your staff well, your volunteers and all of that. People are giving their time most of the time for free. They're flying themselves around to get there and taking a week, or 3 days or whatever it is off of work. And yeah, it's appreciated when those little things matter to people. And also, speakers, there's people that are on the circuit. People talk, so, like, they learn
absolutely.
which ones are, like, give the best, thank you gifts, and which, the coolest, like, boat rides or whatever it is that is happening there. And there's a lot of producers. I would say most producers in this space are very thoughtful. I trying to think. I'm like trying to think. I'm like, I don't think there is one that isn't thoughtful.
Most of the successful ones are.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But
Good.
it's cool. That extra special something is really important, because that's the human element. Those are the little things in life. Those are the sticky notes that you leave your partner, that you say, I love you, or you're awesome. Those little things really matter. So,
Okay, Heather, I've got to thank you for being a guest on our 200th Partner Talks. And I'm
yay.
even happier that, you're going to be steering a lot of the ship when it comes to community at Microsoft. And I'm going to be looking for some great things coming out of that project that you're working on. So
Yeah.
thanks for your time. And I'm sure we'll be back to talk to you more about community.
Sounds great, Rick. Thank you so much. And thanks, everybody.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.